you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm giving you the update to the Simplar build, and this is a Stamina Templar, and this is the update for the Murkmire DLC. He's built around survivability, sustain, and high single target and decent AoE damage at the same time. So everything all into one package with a nice simple rotation, which is kind of set in stone. So if you stick to it, you'll never actually run out of resources. So first of all, I'm going to go over the stats. I'm going to put some buffs on. Get our potion on. Good to go. We are sitting on 10k max magicka, which is not that important because I'm not using any anyway. 19k max health, 37.8k max stamina, 1110 stam recovery, which is huge. 52.5% crit chance, 3.4k weapon damage, which will actually go up with our glyphs from our weapons. And our resist to disgusting as long as we're standing still. 21k spell resistance and 18.7k physical resistance. We are tanky as hell as a stam DPS. Now, we are using 64 of our attribute points into stamina, so all in there. Stage 4 vampire, and we're using the Lava Stone. The reason for that is we're not using any penetration sets, so even with all the shiny buffs in place, we're only going to hit about maybe 15, 16k pen if you had everything without this. So I would highly recommend using this stone over the thief for this particular build. But if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you've got enough penetration, maybe you've swapped your monster set out for Krag or something like that, and you hit cap quite easily, then you can change this. But for pretty much all content, this particular build requires the Lava Stone. Max health, max stamina, food, and of course these buffs are on us all the time, but we'll go over that in the passives. Now, first of all, I'm going to go into the skills. If you're not familiar with these, then you're in luck because I'm going to explain every single one of them. If you are already familiar and you already think you know everything about this build already, then of course you are welcome to skip. But if you do, you are running the risk of missing information that I've already explained. So if you do ask questions that have already been answered in the comment section, I will not be answering them. So first of all, we are using Power of the Light. This is in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. It's the third ability you unlock. Starts off as Backlash, morph it to Power of the Light. Now, this actually applies a light on top of the target's head, basically, like a big beam, and this lasts for 6 seconds. It applies minor fracture and minor breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 1320 for 6 seconds, which is a nice debuff so people can do more damage because you go through their resistances. It does physical damage initially, but then over the 6 seconds that it's active, all the damage that you do to it is kind of calculated up and added into a little pot. 20% of it is stored to one side, although it's already hit the target, and it will calculate up a nice burst at the end. The maximum it can do is 22,716. It cannot physically crit. It will do that amount of damage as long as you've done the maximum amount of damage you can within the 6 seconds. Now, you want to keep this up as much as possible, obviously, to keep the minor breach and minor fracture buff up, and of course to add to your additional damage. But in the rotation, when we get to it, you'll see that we actually fire this twice every rotation, and we can keep almost 100% uptime on it. It's really, really handy. The next ability is Rearming Trap. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. It's the 5th ability you unlock. You get this really, really late in the Fighters Guild. It's about Fighters Guild 8 or so. So make sure you're killing lots of undead, Daedra, and werewolves and all that kind of stuff to make sure you level it as fast as you can. Once you get Trap Beast, morph it to Rearming Trap. Now this does physical damage over time to a single target enemy, whichever one is caught in the trap. Bosses can be caught in the trap, but they won't be stunned or immobilized or anything like that. They will just do the physical damage to them. But at the same time, while this is active, you will gain minor force, meaning all of the critical damage that you actually do will be boosted by a further 10%. So this is really, really powerful. But it rearms. Now it goes on the ground like this. It will immobilize any target that it holds, except for bosses and stuff like that if they're CC immune. But once it fires, like I said, it will do the damage over 6 seconds. It will give you the minor force over 6 seconds. But once it's done, it will fire again. So you actually get it for 12 seconds, not 6. So it's a really, really handy skill. Keep that up 100% of the time. Repentance. This is insane. Absolutely broken skill in my opinion. Third ability you unlock in the Restoring Light skill line. This starts off as Restoring Aura, morph it to Repentance. Now what this does is this on your bar, while slotted, will give you minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect, increasing all of your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 10%. So helpful to our sustain. But when you activate it, which is free by the way, every single dead body that you repent, if you like, or you cleanse, or whatever you want to do, this actually gives you health and stamina back for each body. Now, you will get health and stamina back, whereas the group will get health back. So you can actually heal your group as well with this. Now, I'm going to show you quickly how this works. We have a dead body there. That's not going to be enough. We need some more bodies. Let's go kill some skeletons in here. You and you and you. Come on. Bring these into the corner, kind of bunch them up a little bit. Lovely. Don't worry about him. Watch this. Full health, full stamina almost. It's ridiculous. 2 bodies on the ground there. Can't run out. They'll heal you and give you stamina back. And it will give your group health back as well. So we do it again here. Get as many bodies as we can. The more bodies, the better. Look at that. Ridiculous. You can't run out. Now, that's very, very important. You don't actually have that inside your rotation as such, but you will be using it when people die, or when enemies die, rather. So, before, only one Templar could use this. Now you're not fighting for bodies. Before, you could cleanse one body or repent one body, and somebody else couldn't do the same. Now you can both use the same target. It doesn't matter. And you can do it to up to 6 targets, I believe. Now, the next ability is, of course, you've already seen it, Biting Jabs. This is in our Adrix Spear skill line. Now, this is the first ability to unlock. Starts off as Puncturing Strikes. You want to morph it to Biting Jabs for the Stamina Morph. Now, this will do physical damage to all targets in front of you, basically, but the closest one will receive extra damage. So, all targets getting hit by this will take damage per hit, but the one at the front will get the most damage. So, keep that in your rotation at all times. It's really, really nice. It's your main spammable. It does apply a snare to the targets, but it doesn't really matter that much in PvE because we're going to be facing a target anyway. We're already hitting them. And while activated, this will grant you major savagery for 8 seconds as well, increasing your critical chance by 10%. It says 2191, but it's actually 10%. Now, we do have this in our potions anyway, but as you can see, we have basically full uptime on this as long as we're using Biting Jabs once every 8 seconds, and we are. Now, the next ability is Deadly Cloak. This is in the dual wield skill line. It's a 4th ability you unlock. Now, this is absolutely insane. Over 15 seconds, every 3 seconds, this will do area of effect damage to any targets nearby. And this will also grant you major evasion, reducing all area of effect damage you take by 25%. So remember, we've got really high resists already. We can heal off of dead bodies. And of course, we take 25% reduction to AoE damage. It's disgusting. Simply keep this on all the time. You have to use it once every rotation. And anyone near you will get slapped with nasty damage once every 3 seconds. It's really, really strong. Your front bar ultimate is Flawless Dawnbreaker. This is on here purely for the stats. Now, this will grant us 5% extra weapon damage. There's also some passives in the Fighters Guild, which I will get to later, but you need Fighters Guild level 10 to unlock this. Starts off as Dawnbreaker, morph it to Flawless Dawnbreaker, and keep it on your bar at all times for that extra physical damage. Now, don't use this ultimate. We are not using this at all to actually fire, so you never have to actually use this. What we're doing is we're using the back bar ultimate instead, which I'm going to get to after we're finished with the back bar skills. Resolving Vigor. This is in the Assault skill line. You will need to go in PvP for this. If you're not too excited about PvP, you don't really like it or whatever, simply get yourself into some battlegrounds, some random ones, and even if you lose, you will still get alliance points. So get in there, persist. If you die all the time, it doesn't matter. As long as you take part, you'll get alliance points. Once you've unlocked this, go from Vigor, morph it to Resolving Vigor. Now what this does is very simple. It's a heal over 5 seconds for you and your teammates. Don't spam it, because look at my stamina. It's just running out for no good reason, and it's just reapplying the heal over time. Keep it running. When it gets to 0, if you need it again, do it again. Poison Injection. This is in the Bow skill line. It's our next ability. This is absolutely insane. It's a single target damage over time ability, which should be applied and kept up 100% of the time. But, a little bit of a bonus. When the target goes under 50% health, the lower the health, the more damage it does. Up to 260% more damage, in fact. This is incredibly powerful. Starts off as Poison Arrow, ends up as Poison Injection. Make sure you morph it correctly. This is very, very strong indeed. Keep it in your rotation all the time. Now, the next ability is Razor Caltrops. This is in the Assault skill line. You will need to go to PvP again for this, so stick yourself into a Battlegrounds kind of marathon. Stay in there. If you lose, you lose. It doesn't matter. You still get points and unlock this skill. Get Caltrops, morph it to Razor Caltrops. It takes a little while to level up, so go and get some content done, hand in some quests on this bar, all that good stuff. Now, what this will do is this will do a physical damage over time in area of effect to everything caught in here once a second. And it does an initial hit as well. So when it lands, it does like an extra hit as it hits them. This needs to be kept in your rotation all the time. It's got massive range, so you can throw it on the run up to a boss and all that good stuff, but it's also a 12-second duration, so this will stay up throughout your whole rotation, no problem whatsoever, so long as you are on point with it. Now, the next ability is Restoring Focus. This got buffed to hell in Murkmire. Now, this is the 5th ability you unlock in the Restoring Light skill line. So you are going to need to basically keep Repentance on your bar the whole time and get some XP so you can get to this eventually. Starts off as Rune Focus, morph it to Restoring Focus. They buffed this so much it's not even funny. This used to just give you resist buffs and like little passives and shit like that. But now, not only does it give you Major Resolve and Major Ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5280, which is a buff type. You can't stack those. It also lets you recover 240 stamina every 1 second. It is filthy. And this applies to you. You don't have to stand in it. You just have to activate it. So, there you go, and it stays with you. But, if you do stay in it, there's an even bigger bonus. Standing within the rune increases your physical resistance and your spell resistance granted by 50%. So your Major Ward and Major Resolve bonuses, your actual buff type, is pushed by a further 50%. This is the only buff in the game that boosts Major Resolve and Major Ward. It is disgusting. So, if you look here, I will show you a brief, I'll step out of it. My resistance are 18, 7, and 16. Now, if I stand in it, my resistance are 21, 3, and 18, 7. That's filth. You are basically a tank. A very squishy tank. Really, really powerful. Keep that up at all times if you can. Now, the last one before the ultimate is Endless Hail. This is in the bow skill line. This is very, very simple. Second ability to unlock. Starts off as Volley, morph it to Endless Hail. Just like Caltrops, this lays on the ground. So Caltrops is this large, and Endless Hail is this. So it's a bit smaller. So keep it central if you can. But while this is active, every single target in here will take physical damage every half a second. Not every 1 second like Caltrops, every half a second. It's very, very aggressive. It's extremely powerful. You must keep this on the target at all times. Now, the next ability is our main ultimate, of course. This is the one we should be spamming every second rotation, and I'll show you in the passives and the rotation itself how this is always guaranteed to fire once every second rotation. Anyway, you do not want to fire Dawnbreaker, you want to fire this. This will do physical damage to all nearby enemies, and it will do an additional 4.2k damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds after it's fired. Not only that, once it's fired, it will give you 6 seconds of major protection, reducing all damage you take by 30%. Not only that, but the more enemies hit, the longer it lasts. So for each additional enemy hit with this ability, you will add a 1 second extra bonus to that major protection. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, how this works, very, very simple. As long as I've got ultimate. I think I might have. Let's find some targets to hit. Yes, we have. So we bring all these in. Watch this. There, we just got 8 seconds out of major protection just for firing it. It's filth. Remember, Repentance heals you. And already we've got the ultimate back. So if you kill an undead Daedra, werewolf, anything like that, you won't have it every second rotation. You'll have it every rotation. It's really, really cheap, really, really spammy, and you can survive a lot. Okay, now we're going to go over to the passives, but we're going to go into the house for this one so I can start demonstrating certain things on the target skeleton. Okay, so first of all, we're going to go into our class skill lines, because these are very important. Aedric Spear passives, these are essential. Increase your critical damage by 10%, so all critical damage you do is increased by 10%. Very simple, and it also stacks alongside our Minor Force. And this is on the condition that you have an Aedric Spear ability slotted. As you can see, we have one on this bar, and we have one on this bar. So we get that bonus on both bars. This here, oh, also, by the way, increases the damage done to blocking targets. So if the enemy is blocking, you'll do more damage to them. This is nuts. Gain minor protection for 3 seconds, and reducing the damage taken by 8% by activating Aedric Spear ability. Remember the ultimate that gives us major protection? Well, if we fire it, we actually get major and minor. Fell off quickly because it only lasts 3 seconds, but we get both. Now, why is that important if it only lasts 3 seconds? Well, on the back bar, we obviously fire that ultimate, and then we switch over, so we've got it there. But in our rotation, we're going to use jabs twice, and jabs is also an Aedric Spear skill, and it will apply there. So while we're doing our front bar rotation, we actually have minor protection up pretty much all the time. It's really, really nice. We've got an 8% reduction to incoming damage. Very, very strong. Now, if we're in a situation where we're spamming our ultimate left, right, and center, and there's lots of targets, we can actually have major protection over top of that the majority of the time as well. They do stack together, and they're very, very powerful. Now, Burning Light, When you deal damage with an Adric Spear ability, you have a 25% chance to deal an additional physical damage or magic damage, whichever is higher. 5, 3, 9, 3 physical damage is obviously higher for us because we're spec'd for weapon damage and stamina, so that's the one we will get. Now, this can happen once every half a second. So during our spams of these jabs, or during this, while it's running, the damage over time on it as well, every half a second that has a chance to actually do additional damage for free. It's absolutely incredible. Make sure you get this passive. This, of course, will increase your weapon damage by 6% and your spell resistance by 2640. The higher the weapon damage, the more damage we put out, obviously. So that you must get this as well. Now, Dawn's Wrath abilities. This one here doesn't really apply to us. We're not using any abilities that really need it, so you can avoid this if you want. But however, in certain situations, if you are using Nova, of course, this will benefit by increasing the time. Castle Dawn's Wrath ability will grant you 3 ultimate, and this can happen once every 6 seconds. Now, pay very close attention here. This lasts 6 seconds. So we use it, we get 3 ultimate. 6 seconds later, we're going to use it again, we get another 3 ultimate. Every front bar rotation, we're going to use this twice, which means every front bar rotation, we're going to get 6 additional ultimate just for doing our rotation, which means it's much easier to get this 72 built up really fast. This is important, so you must get that passive. Cousin Dawn's Wrath ability will give you minor sorcery for you and your group as well, so up to 6 people, including you. For 20 seconds, you'll increase their spell damage by 10%, so you help your Magicka guys out with that. Reduces the Magicka, stamina, and ultimate cost of your abilities by 4%. This is an essential passive. You must get it not only for your sustain, but of course for your spam ability of your ultimate. It does make a big difference. Restore and Light, you don't need all of these. Increases the healing effects from your Restore and Light abilities by 12% in the proportion of the severity target's wounds. This is important because you do have a heal in this skill line. Repentance does heal you, it does heal others. This is important. While standing in Cleansing Ritual, Rune Focus, or Rite of Passage area of effects, and for up to 4 seconds after leaving them, you gain minor mending, increasing your healing done by 8%. Again, this is actually quite important because our resist buff is the Rune Focus, and we will benefit from increased heals. When we get to the sets, you'll see that we have actually got a set that heals us as well as our basic Vigor or our Repentance, which will also benefit from this. Enemies standing in the rune will be snared, but that's not that important. But this passive, make sure you get it. This one provides a bonus to Restore and Light abilities, increase the duration of Restoring Aura, which is not necessary because we don't have that particular morph that has a duration. Healing Ritual grants 2 ultimate to allies healed under 60% of health. Now that's not important either because we're not using it. And Channeled Rite of Passage grants 16,500 physical and spell resistance. That also is not relevant because we're not using it. So you can dump that if you want. This one here increases the resurrection speed by 20%. You res really fast, so make sure you're picking people up when they die. Also, when they get up, you will actually give them 100% more health when they come back, so they won't be quite so squishy when they get back in the fight. Also has a chance to fill a soul gem when you resurrect them, so you use one for picking them up, but you might fill one up as well. Now, dual wield. These are very important. You can go through them really in detail in your own time if you want, but basically you want to get every single one of these. They increase your damage against low health targets. They increase your weapon damage of your offhand weapon. If you're not familiar with that, of course, your main hand has more damage than your offhand, so this will boost that. Reduces the cost of dual wield abilities. You want that. Gives you a 15% damage bonus when attacking, stun, immobilize, or disorientate and silence enemies. That's very important for off balance, stun, immobilize, all good stuff like that. And of course, we're using 1 axe, 1 dagger. One is for the extra crit chance, and the other is for a chance to bleed 8% of the time, doing an almost 12k physical damage over time effect for 6 seconds. That, by the way, is a bleed and is not resistible by actual resists. Where are we? Make sure you get every single one of these. This will increase the damage you do to your targets with bow abilities if they're at longer range. So on the run up into things, if you've got volley running and you're kind of running into the enemy, it'll do more damage on the way in. This will increase your crit rating on the bow bar. This will reduce the cost of their abilities. This will also, if you fire off light attacks once every 5 seconds, you will actually keep up a bonus of 5% extra damage, which do actually stack up to 5 times. However, because we're not a Bobo build, we're not going to take full advantage of this, but you are going to manage to proc at least 2 to 3 of these every rotation for 5 seconds, increasing the damage that you do with your bow. So you do want to get this. And of course, if you dodge roll, you do get major evasion for a short period of time as well. So if you get out of trouble, you can get back in again really quickly. We are using 1 piece of light armor, but I don't have enough skill points to spec into all the passives. If you really want these, you can do. You can get a tiny resistance bonus here. You can get magical recovery bonus and reduction to cost, which isn't actually important unless, of course, you're in Sanctum Ophidia. You're not using a magic ability to dump a magic bomb. You're never using any magic at all. So this isn't actually important. And for that particular fight, you don't want to have high recovery anyway, so don't worry about that one. But this is a resist bonus if you want it. And of course, this does reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you and reduces the cost of sprint. So this can be handy as well if you really want. They're not essential, but if you have got the spare points, then of course you can go for it. We're using 5 pieces of medium, so make sure you get every single one of these. This will increase your weapon crit chance per piece worn. We're using 5 pieces, so we get 1, 6, 4, 3. We have increased stam recovery per piece, so 20% bonus there. We have reduction to cost per piece, which is a 10% bonus there. We have reduction to sneak cost, which is not that important unless you're doing the sneaky stuff or you're in PvP. This is very important. This will increase your weapon damage by 15%, which is massive. And of course, this is very important. This reduces your dodge roll cost and improves your speed when you're running. So if you are sprinting around, which you shouldn't be too much, you will be faster. And of course, your dodge roll costs are down. Remember, you dodge roll and evade and block and all the rest of it with the same bar as you do damage with. So you want to get that cost down, otherwise you're going to run out of juice just trying to survive. We are using 1 piece of heavy armor. If I had the extra skill points, I'd probably put some into these, but they're not that important. This one is actually quite handy if you've got the spare points, but our recovery is so high you might not even need it anyway. But this is minor resistance bonus, and we actually get a small amount of resources back. That's actually once every 4 seconds if you fully spec into it for being hit. So you get 108 magic and stamina back once every 4 seconds for being hit. Health recovery is irrelevant because we're a vampire. But the one that is important, if you don't have enough skill points for these, don't worry. They're not that essential. But this one is. This will increase your maximum health by 2% for each piece worn. We are wearing 1 piece of heavy armor, so I would highly recommend getting this passive. We are, of course, a stage 4 vampire. We have supernatural recovery here, so you have an increased 10% to maximum magicka and stam recovery, which is essential. And, of course, reduces the damage taken by up to 33% based on your missing health while under 50%. We have minor protection in our rotation. We have major protection in our rotation. And we take up to 33% less damage the lower we go. So, while low health, we're actually pretty strong. I would highly recommend getting Vampire as soon as possible. Now, Fighters Guild. Intimidating Presence reduces the cost of our Fighters Guild abilities by 15%, so we are using Beast Trap. We do want to make sure we get the cost down because it's quite expensive. This is very important. Increases the weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. As you can see here, we've got a 6% bonus. Why is that? Beast Trap is 1, which is 3%. And Dawnbreaker, although it gives us a 5% bonus flat, it also gives us another 3% for being a Fighters Guild ability. So that actually gives us 8, not 5. Banish the Wicked is essential. You generate 9 ultimate when you kill an undead, daedra, or werewolf. Now, taking into account that we can use this ulti, which costs 72 points once every second rotation, if you start spamming loads of skeletons down, you can probably use it every rotation. It is filthy. So, this passive is essential for a lot of content. You do get a lot of ultimate back as long as you get the kill and blow. Also, your Fighters Guild abilities deal additional 20% damage to undead, daedra, or werewolves. We are, of course, using a Beast Trap in our rotation. It does do damage, and that will be improved if you hit those types of targets. Undaunted, this is essential. When activating a synergy, you restore 4% of your health, stamina, and max magicka. Any synergy you take, every single one, no matter what its effects are, will do this. It's very, very important. This one increases your max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% for each type of armor worn. We're wearing 5 pieces of medium, which is 1 type. We're wearing 1 piece of heavy, which is 2 types. And we're wearing 1 piece of light, which is another type, which is 3 types, which will give us a 6% bonus across the board. This is very, very important. Get these passives as soon as possible. Get your Undaunted stuff done, do some dungeons, finish it off. You won't need these two because they're not important. We are, of course, an Imperial. God knows what's going to happen with the next patch. I know they've hinted about races and all that good stuff, but for the purpose of this video and this particular build in its current state, we are an Imperial. This gives you a 12% increase to max health, so we're tanky. And this gives you an increase 10% maximum stamina, which is the highest stamina bonus currently in the game. It's exactly the same as a Red Guard, so you'll pump out the same amount of damage. Red Diamond as well, your melee attacks have a 10% chance to restore 6% of your maximum health. We have minor protection, we have major protection, we have minor mending, we have high resists, we have a heal on our bar for free. We heal from our hits. And if we go low health, we take less damage. This is very, very good for survival. Just keep up your rotation and you will be fine. Finally, Medicinal Use is the most important passive in the game, in my opinion. I have said this ever since I started the channel. And finally, people have started to get on board with this. Some of them duplicated my words, which is hilarious. But basically, if you're using crafted potions, which I am, you will increase the duration to a positive number. Basically, it will go over your cooldown. Now, what I mean by that is, if you look at my potions here, the cooldown for potions is 45 seconds. But this lasts 47.6. I'm getting major brutality, major savagery, and major endurance. So my recovery's up, my crit chance is up, my weapon damage is up, but it lasts 47.6 seconds. So whenever this runs out, I will reapply it instantly, and I will never be without these buffs. That medicinal use passive is insane. If you're using a non-crafted pot, it won't quite hit the cooldown. You'll be just over 30.5 seconds or so, maybe pushing 40. But if you have crafted pots, you'll get 47.6. It's really, really nice. Now to get it, first of all, we're using Briarheart on the front bar only. You want to make sure that your weapons are Briarheart if you can help it. Now, we're using an axe and a dagger, both infused, one with a poison damage glyph and one with a weapon damage glyph. Now, what this does is it will give you a crit chance bonus, a max stamina bonus, a crit chance bonus again, and when you deal critical damage, which you will, you have a 10% chance to increase your weapon damage by 439 for 10 seconds. And while this is active, your critical strikes will heal you for almost 600 health. So every single crit that you do will heal you. This can happen once every 15 seconds, so there is a 5-second cooldown between the actual initial proc of it anyway. Now, that's why you want it on the front bar, because you want it to proc on the front bar to get as much uptime of it as possible, and then if it falls off on the back bar, then so be it. It'll be ready again by the time you get to the front. Now, you can use the rest of the set, so you've got 2 pieces here. You can use the rest of it in any order, so you can use the body pieces or the jewelry or mix and match, whichever you have to hand. The jewelry is quite expensive, so you might want to go with the body pieces. The second set we're using is the Red Mountain. This is a weapon damage bonus, a stamina bonus, a weapon crit bonus, and when you deal damage with a weapon ability, so Deadly Cloak, Volley, Poison Injection, anything like that, or a light and heavy attack, you have a chance to spawn a volcano out of the ground, which will do physical damage, or fire damage rather, to the target, and it's going to happen once every 2 seconds. Now, you want Red Mountain on the body. The reason you want it on the body, or the jewelry as well, doesn't matter, whichever order, as long as it's not on the weapons. Reason being is because Briarheart will fire on the front bar only. It won't fire on the back bar. Whereas Red Mountain, you want it to fire as much as possible. You've got weapon abilities on the back, you've got weapon abilities on the front. You don't want to swap bars and lose this proc, especially with such a fast rate of fire. It's every 2 seconds. So for example, if we switch to our back bar and we're firing a weapon ability there, and then one here, and then another one with a light attack and all that kind of stuff. If we didn't have it on both bars, all this time we're missing out on the proc. Since we do, we actually get it all the time. It's really, really important. Now, again, you want to make sure that Briarheart is your weapons and Red Mountain is your body and jewelry if you can help it. We are using a Maelstrom bow. This is incredibly powerful. It's really, really effective versus your volley ability because it boosts the crap out of it. You want to make sure it's infused with a stamina absorb enchant on it. But if you don't have the Maelstrom weapon, don't worry. You can, of course, use an agility weapon or a crafted weapon or even a Briarheart weapon if you really want to. But just be warned, if you do have a Briarheart weapon, you do run the risk of firing the proc on the back bar and it could run out on the front. So just be careful of that. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about it, though, whatever you've got to hand. But I would highly recommend the Maelstrom bow. The monster set we're using is Stormfist. This is insane. It gives us a stam recovery bonus, so our sustain is up. And when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to cause a big Thunder Fist to come out, and it does shock damage every 1 second for 3 seconds. Then it does a big physical burst of AoE afterwards. Now, this lasts for 3 seconds, of course, but it has an 8-second cooldown. So there's only a 5-second gap, so it's really, really, really active. Just like this is active as hell every 2 seconds. The two combine quite nicely. Alongside the extra damage from Briarheart, it's disgusting. Now, if you want to go that extra mile... Oh, by the way, jewelry traits. Robust, and bloodthirsty, but you want weapon damage on all of them. If you want to go that extra mile, what you can do is you can take off Red Mountain, and you can go with Reliquin. Now, I'm not going to go into huge detail with this particular set. I will show you a demonstration towards the end. But this requires you to pay attention to your bonuses. If you cannot keep up one light attack or heavy attack every 5 seconds on the target you're up against, then don't use it. It's not for you. If you can, and you can actively use it, and you know how the set works, then by all means go for it. Failing that, what you can also use is Alkosh. Alkosh is absolutely insane as well. It does give you the same crit bonus and minor slayer that Reliquin gives you to start with, but instead of a stamina bonus, it gives you a weapon damage bonus, and then of course you actually debuff the targets and do extra damage in area of effect in front of you just for taking synergies. It's very, very powerful, so the more synergies, the better. As far as Alkosh and Reliquin are concerned, if you can keep up this proc, this is absolutely insane. It will give you about a 5 or 6k increase to DPS overall. But if you can't keep it up, you have to keep resetting the stacks, which means it's useless to you and you're not getting any of that additional damage. Alkosh, however, if you've got 3 synergies or more, I mean, when this is golded out, it's almost 18k physical damage over time, plus the initial burst. You can get almost 6k damage just by taking 3 synergies in area of effect in front of you. So, if you have 4 or more synergies active at any one time, you want to use Alkosh over Reliquin because you'll actually do more damage, and this applies a damage over time effect, which lasts longer, plus a debuff, which increases your group damage, whereas this could actually just fall off and do bugger all. So, it's down to experience. If you're not experienced with either one of these 2 sets and you don't have access to them, by all means stick to the original setup. But if you are very experienced, and you'll probably want to check out the Infused Dragon Knight build video for more details on these 2 particular sets, then of course you've got Reliquin or Alkosh depending on the situation. Now, champion points. Then we're going to go into the rotation. Champion points are pretty much the same as most other setups they have as far as the red and green trees are concerned, but we'll go over them anyway. 23 points into Ironclad, reducing the amount of damage we take from direct damage. 64 into Hardy, 64 into Elemental Defender, reducing the amount of damage we take from all sources, because that's quite well balanced out, 13% from everything, and 19% reduction to damage over time. So if it's like a physical damage over time, these 2 work together, and also if it's a physical direct damage, then these 2 work together, all that kind of stuff. But just be aware, we do have some shinies in here as well. Unchained. Because you've got this passive, if you break free, and you will do, your next stamina ability within 5 seconds will be reduced by 80%. So throw out a heal, throw out a caltrop, something expensive, and it won't cost you bugger all. 19 points in a quick recovery. This is important because it gives us a 5% increase to healing received. All of our heals that we receive from ourselves or other people are boosted. Plus, for 10 points in this tree, you have Field Physician. Another passive that I've gone over ever since I started the channel. And again, finally, people are starting to pick up on it. When you resurrect someone, you take 15% less damage. You have a really fast res being a Templar. You're 20% faster than everybody else. You should be picking people up if they go down. Make it your business to do so, and while doing it, you will take less damage. Pop a Vigor first. Make sure your resist buff is up. Pick them up. 44 into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 75 in Tenacity to increase the amount of stamina we get back from our heavy attacks. We're going to use 2 every rotation as well, so that's really important. And this increases our flat stamina recovery as well by 14%. 76 points into Tumbling to reduce the cost of dodge roll by 23.52%. Now, 23% is what we get. The 0.52 is not relevant. It doesn't count unless we actually get a flat percent. So you don't need the extra 4 points in here. But we did put the extra 4 points in here because, 1, we've got nowhere else to put them, and 2, because we've got 75 points in this tree, I can actually get better loot from treasure chests, which is a really nice passive to have alongside a active bonus. Okay, 40 points into Master at Arms, increasing our direct damage, which we do a lot of. 6% bonus from 9 points in here for our light and heavy attacks, which we also do quite a lot. We have 72 points into Thaumaturge, which we do a feck ton of damage over time. 48 points into Precise Strikes, because we do get a massive bonus from our crit damage, and we want to boost that a little bit more. 37 points into Piercing, giving us 3, 1, 8, 4 physical penetration, which is actually pretty nice alongside the Love and Wonderstone, alongside any bonuses, buffs, or whatever you get from your group. And, of course, 64 points into Mighty. Now, just bear in mind, of course, if you are going towards that 18200 pen cap and you want to hit it on the nose and you're being as optimized as you possibly can versus the boss, just consider that the buffs and debuffs do have downtimes. There will be gaps. Guaranteed. No one is perfect. There will be issues where your penetration values are down. So going a little bit over is not a negative because you'll plug the gap. Also consider that we do AoE damage as well. So you want to be a little bit over because the area of effect targets that you are going to go up against will not have crushers on them. Alkosh could be on downtime and all that good stuff as well, because crusher is single target, not multiple. You can't reapply it to the loads and loads and loads of targets. So there are going to be targets with a lesser of a penetration bonus from you. You are going to have them with a little bit higher resistance than the main target. So you do want to go slightly over to make sure that you down those AoE targets a little bit quicker. But that is up to you. That's a choice. As far as it's sitting at the moment, it's really, really solid. But if you want to alter it, go for it. Now the rotation. I said this was simple, didn't I? It's simpler than most. But it's timed and calculated. As you can see here, we have Power of the Light. That lasts 6 seconds. We want to make sure that our front bar rotation does last at least 6 seconds in order to be able to fire that again. We want to make sure our back one lasts 6 seconds in order for it to pop by the time we get to the front to reapply it again. So we can keep 100% uptime on it. That has been considered. Also, we have a resist buff here, which is in our rotation. Not normally, but it is now because it gives us stamina back. This, we need to try and keep up for 2 rotations, and we want to make sure we fire our ultimate every second rotation as well. At the same time, it's having 100% uptime on our Beast Trap, 100% uptime on our Deadly Cloak, and 100% uptime on these two damage over time abilities here. So, to make sure that all works hand in hand, the rotation, it goes like this. The front bar, you should have your beast trap down anyway. But you want to come into the fight with your volley, light attack, poison injection, light attack, caltrops, swap bars. Light attack, power of the light, heavy jabs, heavy jabs. Light attack, deadly cloak, light attack, power of the light again, light attack, beast trap, swap. So, your front bar, we're going to do it again, and then I'm going to explain the back bar in more detail. Light attack, power of the light, heavy jabs, light deadly, light power of the light again, light beast trap, swap. Very simple. As you can see, we've got 2 power of the light procs there, and we've got 2 jabs in there giving us our minor protection, and we've got our uptime on our dots, and we've got our beast trap. Now, on the back bar, you've got 2 different rotations, and you need to alternate them. The reason being is about timing. Now, when you're on the back bar, you want Endless Hail, light attack, poison injection, light attack, caltrops, light attack, ultimate, swap bars. We went over the front one already. Light power of the light, heavy jabs, light deadly, light power, light beast trap, swap. Now, our ultimate's not ready this time. So you go volley again, light attack, poison injection, light attack, rune focus, light attack, caltrops, swap. Yes, that was in a different order. The reason being is, when we have the ultimate rotation, caltrops down first, ultimate, swap bars. When we have the next rotation, we put our resist buff down first, and then caltrops, swap bars. The reason for that is, caltrops does an initial hit when it lands, does more damage when it lands, but we're on our back bar. So hit it, swap. It will do more damage because we're now on our dual wield. On the ultimate rotation, same applies. If you fire this and swap really quickly, you'll get the damage on the front bar instead. So that does change. Now I'm going to go over that again. You start off with your buffs up. You have to have your buffs up. So you have your deadly cloak and you have your rune focus and all that good stuff. Beast trap always has to be down. So it's volley, light, poison, light, resist buff, light, caltrops, swap. Light power, heavy jabs, light deadly, light power, light beast trap, swap. Different rotation. Volley, light, poison, light, caltrops, light, ultimate, swap. Light power, heavy jabs, light deadly, light power, light beast trap, swap. Different rotation. Volley, light, poison, light, resist buff, light, caltrops, swap. Light power, heavy jabs. You see where we're going here? Heavy jabs, light deadly, light power, light beast trap, swap. This time, volley, light poison, light caltrops, light ultimate, swap. So every rotation, you finish with the ultimate on one rotation, you finish with caltrops on the next. Now, if that's too confusing, instead of alternating where you fit this resist buff in and where you put the ultimate in, you can literally just end it with the ultimate, end it with a resist buff. End it with the ultimate, end it with a resist buff. Every single rotation, the ultimate or the resist buff is your alternate ability. Just remember, it's always different. And the easy way to spot it is, of course, if your ultimate's ready, it's your ultimate time to do it. Again, volley, light, poison, light, resist buff, light, caltrops. Very simple to do. You must get those 2 heavies in. The reason the heavies are there are not just for your sustain, but to increase the time you're on that bar to make sure you get the most out of your power of the light. Again, if it's too confusing and you can't switch between caltrops ultimate swap or resist buff caltrops swap, then just place it in the same place. So instead of this, like volley, light, caltrops, light, ultimate, and then the next bar you mess it all up, do the same order. Poison injection, caltrops, resist buff, and swap. You can put it in exactly the same place, but I wouldn't recommend it because if you want to optimize your damage, then you can put it in just before it and you can get the extra burst out of caltrops when it lands. Anyway, I'm going to show you what it looks like on a skeleton so you can see a better demonstration of it from start to finish. We do have major fracture applied because every single person in every single fight, if you have a tank, will have major fracture and major breach, and that is applied via pierce armor quite easily, so I always use that in my tests. However, some classes have major fracture in their arsenal already, So for those of people that claim to have a solo test on perhaps a Nightblade or a DK when you got Major Fracture applied and you expect the Templar to do exactly the same numbers, that's not going to happen unless you have a tank present, because you already have that major debuff applied. So that is why I always have a tank present, to give that debuff and make it a little bit more balanced. It's not 100% accurate, of course, because we have all class passives and all that shit, but it's close enough. So here we go. I'm going to show both versions, the standard setup and the Reliquien setup. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring or confusing. Just bear in mind that the rotation is constructed so everything fits in place perfectly. So it will take some time to get used to it, but it never changes. There's an alteration on the back bar, but it's all about getting into the rhythm of it. Once you fully understand how to do everything in order, then you can start speeding it up again. But just remember, don't go too quickly, because you can overshoot some of the abilities and they won't actually fire. So take your time, get the rotation down, and then improve on it. Anyway, first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website, XynodeGaming.com. And of course, I live stream almost every night from 10 PM onwards, UK time, on Twitch as well. Also, there's finally a join or sponsorship button on the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to have that little private members area, you can, of course, support via that function or feature as well. Again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.